In the last entry to my dev journal, I walked you through my discovery of game dev and the first few steps I took. Today, we start something new. Previously, I stated that my next project would be a multiplayer game where you're hunted by an alien. While the base concept remains the same, I've also made a lot of changes to my overall vision for the game. Let's start by going over my game design document so you can get an idea of what I'm building. Here's a quick summary of what I'm making. I'm making a multiplayer first-person shooter where you hunt/are hunted by an alien creature. You must find and kill the alien in a map with various challenges and puzzles. Both you and the alien will grow in strength as the game progresses. The original inspiration for this game is Evolve. In Evolve, the hunters must race to kill the alien as quickly as possible so it doesn't become too strong and impossible to take down. This project is also inspired by Alien Isolation. The AI in Alien Isolation is fascinating to me and I'm a big fan of the core gameplay loop. Additionally, I was also inspired by small aspects of other games like Amnesia the Bunker, Prey 2017, and the Resident Evil games. So I'm shooting for a survival FPS thriller game. As for gameplay, the hunter will start off equipped with basic tools and will need to explore the map, completing challenges to gain new tools and knowledge to take down the alien. These could be stronger weapons, environmental advantages, or information on weaknesses the alien may have. At the same time, the alien will evolve physically and mentally, growing in size, speed, strength, as well as learning new hunting techniques to take down the player. Similarly to how the player must complete challenges to grow in strength, the alien must eat and stalk the player to evolve. The game will take place in a lush jungle with plenty of tall fauna and trees for the alien to hide in, and abandoned facilities for the player to search. This project may seem large in scope, mainly because it is, but in order to stay grounded and keep the project feasible, I'll focus on the core features. To start, although multiplayer is the end goal here, I will build the game around a single player experience, but will include the code for multiplayer along the way. The number of challenges will also be limited to start. I want to focus more on the interactions between the alien and the hunter. I will also be making the game in a retro art style to limit the amount of time I spend making 3D assets. With the game scope covered, let's actually start working on it. The first thing I started working on was the character controller. I want the character to be able to move freely throughout the environment, and to me, that means the amount of movement actions they can do needs to be high. For complex movement, I would need complex animations, which means I would spend a lot of time in Blender and not enough time working on the gameplay. Luckily for me, Unreal has a great game animation sample project that includes animations for a lot of the movements I want to include. But more importantly, it had the logic for mantling and the animations for mantling already there for me. Right off the rip, my character could run, jump, crouch, and mantle, but I felt like that still restricted the character's movement quite a bit. So I implemented a slide, a dive, and prone. Slide and dive work essentially the same way, but a slide is triggered from sprinting into crouch, while diving is sprinting into a prone. I haven't added animations for the slide or dive yet, so for right now the character just does the crouch or prone animation while the movement is taking place. Before I continue, I have a great new segment that I'll be airing for the first time right now. This segment is called, Please Help Me Viewer, I'm Stuck. When I used the gas mantle logic, I also converted it into C++ so that I could attach it directly to my custom character movement script instead of a blueprint. However, I encountered an issue that's plagued me for over 2 weeks. When I enter a mantle from 2 of the 4 cardinal directions, the chooser always starts the animation at the 0-second mark instead of choosing a more appropriate start time. At first, I thought this was caused by me editing the chooser with my custom enums and editing the animation blueprint. But going through that and making sure it matched the original gas logic changed nothing. I spent several days browsing documentation, forums, Reddit, and pleading to ChatGPT. I even posted my issue to the Unreal forum, which is something I would never do. My most recent guess as to a cause for this problem was that the gas uses third person and their camera rotation logic differs from mine, which is a first person project. I believe this might be the reason as to why the chooser messes up based on rotation. And that concludes this segment of Please Help Me Viewer, I'm Stuck. The next thing I added to my character was gunplay. I modeled a quick handgun, and I imported it to Unreal and slapped on my character's hand and fixed his hand enough so that he was more believably holding the gun. Then I added some procedural recoil to the shooting animation. Aiming down sights is hard for my character, so that's for another day. I decided to go with a projectile-based shooting system because this game won't contain a lot of constant mag dumping, so I wanted a more realistic feel to the guns. For now, the gun works well enough for me to continue to the next aspect of the game. This part of the project was already taking way longer than I had hoped, and the quicker I can get to having all the core features into the game, the quicker I can see how fun it is and what needs to be changed. Polishing the visuals for every system would waste too much time right now. I wanted the alien to be feline in design. I did some reference searching and I found inspiration in several creatures: the Displacer Beast, Shadowmane, Wraith, Coral, and Thanator. Once I completed my search, I hopped on Blender and created my first iteration of the alien. I liked the idea of the alien having tendrils, but I wasn't a fan of them coming out of the body like in the Displacer Beast, so I decided to make them the tail. Also, all of the creatures I referenced are relatively hairless, but I do want my alien to eventually be textured in a way so that it gives off the illusion of having fur. After the alien was modeled, I made an idle animation to get a base for the tail movement, and I made a quick clunky walking animation. I then imported it to Unreal and created its base class and movement components, using the scripts from the Hunter as a base class. Since one of the goals was for this game to be multiplayer, I also set up the alien so that it could be controlled by the player. Next, it was onto the AI that would be responsible for the alien. Luckily, right as I was getting to this point in the project, Unreal 5.6 released, and with it, some improvements to their state tree system were rolled out. I had a good amount of experience working with state machines and behavior trees, so I thought I could easily transition my knowledge to a state tree, which is essentially just a combination of the two. This was mostly true, but I did struggle for a bit with the execution order of the states. I thought a parent would execute before its children, but I was wrong and it would go as deep as possible into the tree before executing. After reading some documentation and clearing up my confusion, I was able to create a solid core for the AI. The alien had several main systems: chasing, searching, stalking, and wandering. Wandering would be the base state, where the alien would just randomly walk around until it had a reason to do something else, like eat. This eating system will eventually tie into its evolution. In order for the alien to leave this wandering state, it needs to become motivated. And before we can get into these transitions, I need to explain the aggression component that I created. I was inspired by Alien Isolation's nuisance meter to create a system that would use math to calculate the AI's behavior. Things like taking damage, being hungry, being followed, being surprised, and it would even take into account its fight history. All of these things would contribute to the alien's aggression meter. At certain levels of aggression, the alien becomes annoyed, then angry, and then furious. Additionally, a reaction state is set with values like cautious or hostile. Certain events may override the aggression or reaction state. For example, no matter what the aggression value, if the alien is shot, it'll become hostile and attack the player. Alright, now that I've covered that, let's go back to those transitions. If the AI is wandering and becomes hostile, it'll either enter the chase state or the search state, depending on if it knows where the player is. If the AI becomes cautious and its aggression is high enough, it might search for, then stalk the player, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Or it might realize it's wasting its time stalking the player and go eat instead to continue its evolution. Out of all the states, the stalking state is the most complex. The alien will move from hiding spot to hiding spot using various environmental query systems to find the best position. If the player leaves the field of view of the alien, it'll then loop behind the player's last known position, avoiding the direction that the player just went to avoid potentially being seen by the player. Once it regains visual, the alien moves to the best hiding spot again. If it doesn't regain visual, the alien will then move to the last known position and search the area. Each hiding spot the alien finds must be out of the player's vision and completely hide the alien. If the second condition can't be met, the alien will position itself so that it hides from the player's POV as best as possible. This means the alien might sit behind cover and rotate itself so that it lines up with the cover, and if the player were to turn, it wouldn't be able to see the alien. Importantly, if the alien's only available hiding spot doesn't allow direct line of sight to the player, the alien would still choose that hiding spot, but every now and then, the alien would then peek out around the hiding spot to check to see if the player is still there. Later on, I want to be able to animate it so the alien just peeks its head around the corner instead of completely moving to the side, but for now, this system works. I would like to add that as of right now, all of these systems work separately. If in the chase state, the alien chases the player and attacks when it gets close enough. If in the stalk state, the alien stalks the player as it should. If in the search state, the alien moves to the last known position and then checks nearby hiding positions. And in the wander position, it randomly walks around and eats food. However, the most recent change I made to these states were the transitions. I created transitions that would work best for the full game, with each transition requiring deep, in-depth requirements. It's become hard for me to see the results of the full tree just running around the little test area. I'm still trying to polish these transitions so they work smoothly. Currently, my biggest challenge is making these transitions work smoothly in any situation. In my previous projects, I haven't been the best at implementing dev tools to test certain aspects of the game. So right now I'm trying to find ways to set up the alien's aggression and such, so that it's easy to test the full tree in game. That's everything I've gotten to on the alien. That was a lot of talking, but it covers everything I've done in the past month for this project. It might not seem like a lot for a month, but I did leave out the numerous smaller learning projects I worked on in order to gain an understanding of things like coding in C++ for Unreal, particle systems that I needed to learn for the muzzle flash, for the gun, or learning about state trees, and conducting hard research on games of a similar genre.
Boys,
Oh my fucking god.
Boys.
Oh my fucking god, guys. Oh
Boys,
my
hit the
god,
gritty.
Oh
hit the
my-
gritty.
I don't have a name for this project yet, but I do have some ideas floating around. Prey/Predator. I mean Predator, where there's a slash between prey and dator. Hunted slash between hunter and d. That brought about the idea Hunter Hunted, or my favorite, Hunter X Hunted. As for goals I have set for next month, the first thing I plan on doing is creating a map or a test environment to see how the systems would work and to give a better visual to the project. After that, I plan on making the trees for the alien to climb on, which then leads to the third thing, the alien climbing. And then finally, I plan on updating some of the visuals/animations, like fixing the reload animation so the gun itself undergoes an animation, lining up the ADS, smoothing out the alien movement so every movement isn't just forward walking, and creating the sliding/diving animations for the player. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the second entry to my dev journal. I hope to update you again in a month-ish. Yeah. Thanks for watching.